Welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. The Sooners win, beating Tulane 34-19. I'm Steve.
Jay.
Lucas.
Connor.
We're excited to be here. We're excited for our sponsor, the title sponsor, Little Debbie. Little Debbie snack cakes. My favorite sometimes is Star Crunch. Sometimes I like the little brownies, cosmic brownies. But there's almost no beating an oatmeal cream pie. What do you guys think?
Love it.
Love it all?
Top seller.
Top seller. The oatmeal cream pie?
That's what I hear.
Do you have any other delights and treats?
The Nutty Bar.
You know what's coming out?
Fall cakes.
Fall cakes,
right here.
Fall cakes are all over the stores. Get out, get to the stores, stock up, and enjoy those beautiful little
Pumpkin delights.
But thanks to Little Debbie, our sponsor. So the Sooners win. I think it represents solid improvement. I think it represents the confidence builder that Jackson Arnold in particular probably needed, but it obviously wasn't perfect. It was a game in doubt late. Some of that was because of, I think, what we did in terms of mistakes. Some of it was just the fact that you're playing a really good team compared to the teams we've been playing. So let's get into that. What were you guys' immediate thoughts?
I thought the first half, the offense looked like they had opened the playbook. There was, instead of having the wide receivers stacked on top of each other, it looked like they had run different routes, creating more space and giving Jackson better avenues to throw, as opposed to two guys running too close to each other with two defenders kind of smothering them. And then the running game started moving. Yardage-wise, I don't know that it was a ton in the first half, but it was enough to where we had talked about being on schedule. We didn't have 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. It was pick up, 3 or 4 yards and then maybe get a first down. And then it was pick up 6 yards and then get a first down. And then second half came out, and we talked about it last week and the week before. There's no second half adjustments. And if they are adjusting, whatever they're doing is not working, because the second half was complete garbage on offense.
Yeah, I mean, holistically agree basically with your entire analysis of it. It was nice seeing us get those kind of gimme plays, and to Lucas's point, it looks like we opened some stuff up to just get some singular guys open and not all be bunched up and crowded up on one another. And I think that got Jackson into a groove early. Kind of that rhythm that we've been trying to establish or wanting to establish was there, it seemed like. But on the other side of it, second half was kind of the second half we're becoming used to, unfortunately. And I feel like we just got conservative, and I don't know, to Lucas's point, maybe it's just some adjustments that weren't the right adjustments, but felt like a lot of first and second downs in the second half, we were way too conservative with the run game. Our line looked tired. Our line stopped holding up blocks. So still a lot to be desired in that area. But overall, I mean, I think this game, I know I picked a score of 41-20, but 34-19, I'm leaving hopeful of next week. I mean, we're watching Tennessee right now. They're putting up 1,000 points on Kent State. At halftime. Yeah, whatever that means. But nonetheless, I mean, I think it sets us up pretty well to go into next week confident and hopefully with a solid footing under us to maybe, I think at this point, upset Tennessee.
Yeah, I think the best part was, we've been looking for simple plays or easy plays, right? Everything looked so hard and so calculated and difficult. It was nice to just have some swing passes to running backs, some easy curl routes, getting the ball out quick, some quarterback run game, etc. So that was nice to see. I don't know what the halftime adjustments are. I don't know if we are adjusting and they're incorrect, or we're not adjusting while the other teams are, and we're just rolling with what we were doing.
Feels more like that.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's to be not showing Tennessee something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if all of that can get them off the hook, because you got to make good adjustments at halftime. And if you're trying to not show the opponent something in a game that's really tight, the next opponent something in the game that's really tight, you got to make good adjustments. And these adjustments for the third week in a row seem to just be missing any semblance of picking up on weaknesses, accentuating your strengths, putting you in a better position to win. we look weaker in every second half than we did in the first half of the same game. We look stronger in this second half than we did in the others, but we still didn't look as good and crisp as we did in the first half, and the offensive production really fell off in a critical way after a opening drive that was a really good drive to start the second half that ends in a field goal, disappointedly, but still was definitely in threatening position to score a touchdown and got deep into Tulane territory. And then after that, just went into a shell.
Yeah.
And didn't seem to understand what they were doing in terms of, or the defensive adjustments that Tulane is making are superior. Either way, that doesn't bode very well. So that seemed problematic to me. Some other, if we want to get into some of the problematic stuff, obviously the offensive line continues to be a major problem. This a real big shortcoming. You look at the pick six, Jackson makes the wrong decision to throw across his body blindly late when he's under duress. But the fact that he's getting completely bum rushed is because the offensive line completely fell down in their job. And I guess Biedenbow was caught on camera basically expressing his dissatisfaction with it.
Yeah, I think on that play, Ozeta was at left guard, and he was double teaming another defender while that guy came through untouched.
Right. That happened numerous times where it's just as bad as it can be in terms of missed assignments. And their defensive line can't be that good to be putting pressure. And our defensive line is that good, and yet we weren't being able to put that clean of pressure in those type of situations. So there's just something very much amiss. When you combine that with the receivers dropping balls, you just don't have a lot of room for error in anything. And yet we're in this position where we continue to see struggles at every position group. Running back looks stronger today. I thought, did you guys have, I think it's a clear strength or improvement over what we've seen. But how satisfied with that were you guys?
They still didn't average, no running back averaged over 4 yards a carry.
Yeah, we didn't have a running back over 20 yards on the day.
Yep.
And I would say that's an offensive line more than
100%
running back.
And I agree. I think it's just,
we all talked about needing D tackles, right, on defense, because if you can get an interior rush defensively, it messes up your whole play. Well, we have the opposite problem right now in offense, where Josh Bates at center is getting whipped.
Yeah.
Some plays completely whipped.
Yep.
So if the other team is getting pressure up the middle right off the get-go of a play, it just messes everything up.
Right. And
we need Hickman back.
Yes, sir.
He has to be back next week.
yeah. So what's frustrating about it is I know I don't understand the game as well as someone who plays the position, but it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
It's pretty basic stuff. And
It's just how can it be that bad?
how can it be that bad?
Yeah.
And so and I come back to the coaches. How can it on your watch be this bad? What are you doing wrong? What are you asking them to do that they're clearly not capable of doing? And I guess they're maybe caught in a rock and a hard place where they're like, well, we can't just hit pause or simplify and downgrade because that's not where we want to be at the end of the season when we do get healthy.
Well, there's nowhere else to go in the center position. Bates is technically our fourth string center.
Right.
And they're just, there's probably no team across the country that can go to their fourth string center and expect him to be sufficient.
How far out is Everett from being back?
Yeah, I was about to ask the same
I
thing.
don't know. Nobody knows.
In fall camp,
Well, we
it's
might
like,
find out now.
he could be back day one.
Because they have to put out an injury report in SEC play every week.
That's true.
So we'll know more, presumably.
But it's ridiculous that you have one position loss and you have to move three other guys on the line. So
it's crazy.
we've been playing 3 games in a row with guys not playing the position that they played in all fall camp. Now, obviously, some of those positions, like you can move from left guard to right guard. That's not that huge of an adjustment. But, moving your left tackle to left guard and then moving your right tackle to left tackle.
Yeah.
Those are huge differences in what their job is on a play-by-play basis that they're having to learn. And obviously this is week 3 of a lot of that. But, it shouldn't be bad enough to where one position changes the whole 5 positions.
The reason it does is because
The shifts.
your 4th string center can't make the blocking assignments.
That your second string right tackle could if you played.
Yeah,
today.
so you've got an older guy moving inside to make calls, but then you wonder, well, if your left guard's making the calls, how well does the right side of the line hear your left guard making the calls, and vice versa? But as we just alluded to, with people shifting positions, I did find it interesting today that Sexton stayed at left tackle, and a young guy was at guard. So it was on Bates today, I believe, to make the calls today, which is an improvement, unless he made bad calls, which we don't know. But I did think that was interesting.
So I thought something that was good but troubling, or we can't rely on, is we had to and ended up going back to the quarterback draw a lot, and probably too much. You look at that from a number of standpoints that are troubling. One is just the wear and tear on your quarterback and the risk of injury, obviously. But it's also not always going to work. It can't be enough down the stretch. It's an effective play and can be really effective. It's really effective if you've got a Kyler Murray back there, obviously. Jackson Arnold's a good runner. He did really well. But we ended up going to that well quite a few times. It wasn't always successful, but most of the time it was.
Well, it was nice to see bootlegs.
It is nice. It is nice.
Because
I love it as part of the game plan.
47-yard run he had was literally just a bootleg that he rolled out and took off, and nobody was there.
Yeah, so I love it as part of the game plan.
Because that wasn't a zone read, was it?
I don't think so. No. I thought
it was a play action bootleg.
I think it was too.
I
think it was completely designed to be a bootleg.
Yeah.
He gave a really good fake.
Yeah.
But I don't think there was any decision.
That's what I thought.
So that's great. But against speedier defenses, that's going to be more problematic. It's not going to necessarily work. So the success, a big part of the success we saw today, I don't want to label it as gimmicky, but it was fairly one-dimensional in a way that you cannot depend on down the stretch.
I mean, the quarterback doubled up the running back yardage.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable.
Not sustainable. So what I think they're going to have to do is design an offense around an offensive line who can't do much of anything very effectively, and presume and hope that the offensive line comes along, and as they do, you expand the game. But until that point comes, we've got some very big, challenging games ahead. We're going to have to scramble to figure out what to do to put ourselves in a position to win, and that really probably continues through Ole Miss, I would guess, in terms of getting guys back and healthy and getting them incorporated and getting the offense where you want it to be. Any other thoughts on offense before we turn to defense?
I mean, thankfully we have a bye week after Tennessee and before Texas, so
after Auburn.
Oh, yeah, after Auburn. My bad. Well, yeah, but they look like crap. They were losing in New Mexico earlier, but I think they come back, take the lead.
Yeah.
But yeah, I forgot about that game in between.
So they're probably something akin to a Houston. They're talented. I don't know if they're as well coached as Houston, but they definitely could present a challenge. You can't overlook them, especially being an away game. But hopefully, you come out of a Tennessee game a lot better at what you do.
An excuse we make as a fan base a lot of times is we hide behind, we're not wanting to show future opponents, X, Y, Z from the playbook.
We're hoping that's what we're doing.
We're extra hoping that's what we're doing. Because, and I'm trying not to fall prey to it, but the routes, their distances, their depths, their lack of going downfield, it's not just that Arnold's just not throwing two people going down the field. It's rare.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make sense, even from the most simplistic game plan, even if it's just to clear people out.
Right.
Like they're not even an option to throw it to them unless a defender falls or something. It's just take these corners deep, spread out the middle of the field because that's one of your initial reads.
Right.
We're not even doing that.
No.
And so
There's
if we're
one deep
not
ball on
doing
the left
that,
side that he threw really well, but it was well covered. There was, I'm trying to think if there was another deep ball.
there was two. Both were covered well. Burks caught one but got hit in midair and pushed out of bounds. But it was covered.
That's right, both left side, yeah.
But I mean, we're still not just running people out of the play.
No.
And
Well, even on the
I just hope, so much do I hope, that is by design.
right. Yeah, hope that
Because if it's not by design,
I don't understand it.
then we have a
Exactly.
whole
Because
different
you've got a great
to do.
downfield thrower. So if it's by design, I mean, if it's not by design, if it's because by a different kind of design where you can't do it, that's really scary.
Which could be an offensive
Or
line thing.
stupid. Now, it could be. So
I'd be interested to see how many snaps Brennan Thompson took today because I don't feel like he was on the field hardly at all.
I would agree.
Not a
that'd be
lot,
interesting
no.
to look
Had
at.
a
Kearney?
bunch of Kearney out there.
Raggins,
Yeah.
Raggins had a big catch.
Yeah, that was
Great
incredible.
catch.
One
and
catch.
run after catch.
one catch, and it was
There was one I looked at, and it was Kearney, Raggins, Burks, and then Tatum lined out at receiver. And I was like, you've got 3 freshmen and then a transfer out there getting passes. That seemed crazy.
I thought that we saw the emergence of the Burks that we've been promised with the crossing patterns, the deep slants,
Except for
getting
the
guys moved.
Third down.
Then he drops the ball.
Perfect.
Horrible
He
drop.
threaded that.
Yeah.
for
Horrible.
three
Yeah, it
guys.
was an incredible play.
Aside from the drop,
throw.
you saw him avoiding tackles and making extra yardage after very, very, very good and effective.
We got to see
You can't
a wide
drop
receiver
that
screen
ball. Yeah,
that went for what,
it was great.
20, like 15 or 20.
yeah.
That was nice to see, but it didn't. It felt like after he ran that, I was like, oh, here we go. We got a wide receiver screen. Maybe we can run that 2 or 3 more times in the second half. Nope.
Well, back to your deep routes, what I didn't understand was when in the fourth quarter, we draw them off sides. It's clearly an offsides encroachment, so it's a free play, and we aren't running a deep streak route.
Yeah, no one adjusted their route
one
to
did
just
that.
go.
Well, that and Jackson Arnold didn't even sit in the pocket. He stepped up in the pocket and threw it off
Right.
the leg
Right.
In the double coverage.
in the double cover.
I didn't understand any of that.
That was a deep ball.
Yeah, but it wasn't like the deep ball.
It was
that
a
you
deep. It
normally
was like a
get.
deep curl.
Oh, it's a curl, yeah.
It was like
Not a go
it was
route.
like 35 yards, but yeah. That's one that you hope since it is a free play that you
You
just
just know, just go.
do the go
And-
route.
and
'cause
maybe
you could
that's
get
the young-
because you could get a
You know, I want to say, was that 3rd and 11
Yeah.
on that play?
Yeah.
yeah.
So
3rd and 14.
14.
You
Yeah.
know, because I made it. Yeah. So it'd be nice if you would. I don't want to play like OSU did a couple years ago where it's 50-50 balls all the time, or you're getting pass interferences in your favor.
Uh-huh.
But we haven't got pass interferences in our favor, maybe because we're not making contested catches on deep balls that maybe would bring out a flag.
Right.
And on a 3rd and 14, that's an automatic first down. You're getting 15 yards, and it's an automatic first down anyway.
No.
Right.
So we really haven't tried to manipulate that. And I feel like that's something you should at least practice.
I think it's a good point.
Maybe the young guys though don't see that it's a flag, and know that hey, just this is a free play. I'm changing my route completely, and I'm going deep, and we'll see if I can come down with it or not. Because why still run a deep hitch if you know it's a free play?
Hey, look
That's
this
the
way.
kid on your side.
That's it.
Locust will
Sorry.
hear us.
That's not a locus.
It's not a locust.
So one of the other things that was sort of offensively related, we're trying to score is on special teams. Yet again, a special teams flub. Just a complete mistake.
So frustrating. It could be the difference in the game.
It could have been the difference in the game. How in the world you get a delay of game, not just from the standpoint of the players on the field getting it, but the coach not calling timeout.
Right.
And it's in the first half, so it's not like it's a
like
timeout
worth
that's
much.
critical.
Yeah.
On a 50-yard field goal.
Yeah.
That he made.
That he made.
Once
That
he
he-
kicked
yeah,
through
that
it.
the wind was blowing crazy, and he drew it in there.
He did a perfect job, except it didn't
It didn't count.
count.
Yeah.
Ended
So
up
then we had
having
to punt.
punt. Just very, very frustrating there.
That can't happen.
It can't. And then the other coaching mistake, I
It
would say
keeps
a
happening.
little bit, was time management. I didn't think the time management was quite as bad
Not as
as
bad.
time. There was a little bit of time management issue, but not that much. And it was a little indecisive about what the best strategy would be when you're at that point, not knowing the possession count that you're going to need and everything.
Yep.
Well, let's transition to defense.
Well,
because
there was a second special teams mistake It's late in the game. We don't have that big of a lead, and we kick it out of bounds.
yeah.
A kickoff.
My favorite person in the world, Zach Schmidt. Yeah.
I don't understand.
It looks like he stubbed his foot on the ground and just shanked it.
Looks like he had money on the game and was trying to figure out how to make it.
It could be that.
all of his kickoffs were great until that.
Yeah. One just complete shank.
It's literally all he does. That is all he does. I don't know how you mess it up. I don't care how many times you kick off.
Well, I mean, he kicked off a lot, but it wasn't that much. It was
Exactly.
So that
No, he's not Tennessee. He's
that's
not
pretty
scoring
bad.
70-plus points.
that was pretty bad. Could have been critical. So defense came through. They were good even when they were tired. They were good deep and late in the game. Obviously, our Mason Thomas was just stout. Was just a monster. You had great defensive back play. Dolby was out all game. You had
What's the word on that? Did they say?
No.
I wonder if anybody asked Brent.
I don't even remember him getting banged up in the game last
What if
week.
he got suspended or something?
yeah. I wondered if it was something like that too. So just all around really really good play. They had their lulls, and I would say the thing that was the most concerning was the fact that receivers would kind of seemingly run free underneath when they were in zone coverage. Just Woody Washington stuck out as he was covering air and wasn't sinking back or into a guy that to be near him that was obviously the guy to be covering.
Yep.
So not perfect, but really, really good, and got a lot of praise from the opposing coach who called it what, Jay?
I think he said it's the best defense he's ever seen.
That's something.
That is something.
Presumably he watches NFL football too.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, we're not the 85 Bears.
It's a strange.
Well, yeah.
It's a strange statement to make, and
Right.
this
You don't
isn't
have to
like
say that.
this isn't a coach's first job or anything. I mean,
Right.
they have to play hard non-conference opponents all the time, especially when he coming from Troy. So that it's interesting
Do you think he? I mean, they'll have played a lot of big time.
because a lot of times
Opponents.
you try and prop up how good the other team was to
Right.
make yourself maybe not look like we did better than people think we did.
Right.
But you don't say the best I've ever seen.
That was an interesting statement, maybe a hyperbole.
Because
But
you can go really, really, really high.
is he a really good friend of Brent Venables or
What's
Zach
I
Alley
don't know.
or what? I don't know. That was interesting. Well, I thought the defense. I had my moments of
13
frustration, but or 12, right?
13.
13.
13.
There's a missed
Yep, that's right.
No, the drive right before half was a little bit of a let the air out of us because we had completely dominated the whole first half, offensively for the most part, and then we give up a drive right before the end of half.
Right.
Yeah, that
Now,
kind of killed the whole
and
thing.
did that one,
Minimalized.
because one of the things I think they overcame today was really bad officiating. They basically were being held almost every play, and the PI calls in several cases were just really bad. But that one, they were bailed out with a PI call that
That was
Tulane
their second touchdown.
that was in the second half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first half they got the score dumping out to the guy in the northeast end zone where
Right.
he almost got in. It was
Right.
really, really, really close on a fourth down play.
Right. But what I was getting at is on that last drive of the second half, we weren't harmed by any bad officiating per se.
Not that.
Nothing that really stood out as just a really busted situation, like the PI call gives them a first down. I mean, it was a third down play on that one, wasn't it?
I was thinking that was second down.
I think it's second, but it was going to be third and long.
Third and really long, yeah. So defense
Got
played
an
really
interception.
good. Yeah,
So we even
great interception.
we ended up 1-1 on the turnover today, right?
Yep,
We got two turnovers.
we got two. Yeah,
Oh, we took the
forced fumble. Forced fumble
our Mason
at the end of the
Thomas.
game.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Strip sack. Yeah, he. I mean,
So what does that give us?
one
10
step away
10
from
to
running
2
that in.
so far. Is that right?
10-2.
10 turnovers to 2.
Pretty good, and I love the fact that I feel like we're doing as much as we can to force them. Pretty concerning because we don't have a lot to show for a 10-2 margin.
Yeah.
That could be you're getting bailed out by a lot of situations. We don't know. Hard to say. Anything else on defense?
I think I'm a little concerned about like next week with just watching Tennessee tonight. I mean, like you said, like we were vulnerable underneath the safeties today. Like,
Well, we have been.
and we have been, right?
Yeah,
like
for
in
years.
that zone, yeah. So, I mean, it's going to take a lot of work between the safeties and the linebackers next week not to just get picked apart.
Yeah.
Um,
We're going to have to get pressure.
and we're going to have to get pressure as well. So you carry the momentum you had at the end of the game today with the pressure you got, and make that. Which the thing is, you got to run a lot of QB contain next week as well. I mean, that dude, he's a freak. Like if he gets outside the pocket, I mean, he can take off and take it for 60 yards like it's nothing. So I don't know. It's going to be a real test. It's a good opening test. I mean, I'm excited for it. So
Well, before we get to that, let's round out this game. Anything else to talk about in the Tulane game?
I'll say defensively, I'm still a little surprised at the personnel at certain points in the game. It's fourth quarter. There's no Danny Stutzman. The game's not out of hand.
No, it's very much in doubt.
What else do you have? There was one particular play where I believe it was the first time this season that Eli Bowen gets on the field at corner.
In the fourth quarter?
It's a 5-point game, and they have him on an island by himself with no safeties
No
whatsoever.
safety help at all.
I mean, the first time you're in a D1 football game,
Yeah, it scared me because
you're like, here, kid.
you point that out, and then immediately it's play action, and they're actually going to throw the ball. And he didn't look his way or do it, and he looked to be containing, but it's hard to know because the running back or the receiver was doing something different. But it was scary.
It's just an interesting
scary.
spot.
Yeah, it is.
I think Asamigo filled in well for Dolby today. I really can't say enough about Kenai Walker and Des Malone.
Yeah.
I mean, they have taken over.
Throw it, Kenai.
They have taken over those
And Des
corner
looked
spots.
great.
I mean, I don't know what you do if
Des should have had a pick.
a healthy
there in the red
Gentry
zone.
comes back. Like,
Who do you take off the field?
they're playing so well.
Good. I guess good rotation. I guess you can rotate guys and keep them fresh and that's a great position to be in, obviously. Well, defense kind of won the game, and the offense did what they needed to do to be competitive, and the offense came through. It wasn't like we had to rely on that interception or that strip sack. With the strip, both of those were great drive stoppers, but it's not like we took one of those in the end zone to take the lead.
Yeah, and I think the good thing about today is it's really been the case for since the Houston game as well. I'm glad we didn't go behind at any point in the second half, and we've made these games have become close at a very inconvenient time for us.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not like if someone goes ahead in the second quarter, all right, we can figure it out. It's been no, they can take the lead with 5 minutes to go, and we have to figure out how to march down the field and go get 7 points to win the game. So,
which none of us feel very confident.
no, and that's what I'm getting at is fortunate for us. Like it hasn't come to that yet. It's going to, and I thought today maybe the day. I mean, Tulane after that pick six, the momentum was just fully in their favor. So credit to the team for weathering the storm today. But I'm glad we didn't have to come from behind because I didn't have a lot of faith that it was going to be something that we.
I had more
got out of
faith, or more, and I had a higher anticipation of faith today than I did last week.
Absolutely.
When we were in the same.
Last week was
position.
dead.
Last week was really dead.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a lot of faith. So I'm very glad we weren't put in that position.
Well, the students had a lot of faith. They all left before halftime.
That was a joke.
It was ridiculous.
They left, and most of everybody else that was in the sun left. It was extremely thin.
It was extremely
It
hot
was-
as well.
There was like
And it was extremely hot.
8 to 10 people in the row in front of me that literally at the first quarter ended, one guy's like, "Hey, you ready to go?" And the girl's like, "Yeah, sure." And then the people that were like, "I think we're to go." And they're like, "Okay, sounds good." And then everybody just walked out at the end of the first quarter.
It's too
are we talking
inconvenient. I mean, the game day experience is too inconvenient to leave after one quarter. Like, why would
Especially
you
in
put
my
yourself
seats.
through everything that you have to put yourself through?
They walked up to the 71st row because I'm in 72. They were on the 71st row. I'm like, I looked at my dad and I said, "Why would you even make that walk up here if you're going to sit here for a quarter
Yeah,
and then leave?"
Agreed.
I wouldn't want unless
Why
you just
wait?
wanted the exercise.
Why be the 300th person in line at gate 7 to
Well,
get
the
in?
only thing I can think is they didn't know what they were getting into. Now, don't fall for the sunk cost fallacy. Once they're there, and it's not fun, it doesn't matter what you've done to get there. If it's not worth staying for, it's not worth staying.
Yeah, you
for.
don't stay. Right.
So that's really what's going on. It's just amazing to me, like you're saying, so many people choose to put themselves into that. Like, it's almost like they're little kids who just want to see the band and the opening pageantry, and then they hit the road. I do understand, and I'm sympathetic to the heat that the students, among others, go through. That's a lot of it. Is a lot of heat.
That's a lot.
There's a lot of heat in that student section. There's a lot of heat bearing down on that entire east side.
I was in my seats till well after the final whistle.
We'll carve you a little trophy, I guess. I don't know, but other people get to make other decisions.
Yeah,
Chairman Lucas. Well, a solid win, not as solid as we would like, but now that we look at it, I think we have to be pretty satisfied with where we are today. We covered the spread. If I were to tell you last week at this time we're going to win 34-19 and be pretty okay with most of what we saw, to maybe really happy, you'd be pretty excited.
I mean, take away that pick six, and there's no doubt.
There's no doubt
in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, we're kind of going.
And that was
away
just
from it.
boneheaded play. He'll learn from it.
Yeah, it's a good win.
Yeah, it's
a good win.
It's a good win.
They almost beat K-State last week, and K-State rolled Arizona yesterday.
And Tulane, I mean, and I know I kid about this, but Tulane legitimately may run the American Conference this year. Like,
Yeah,
there's some good teams out there,
really
but
may.
Tulane will be in the mix for an at-large
And-
bid
and they're
in
one
the
of-
American.
Yeah, it would seem so. Well, we'd like to take a minute to thank our other sponsor of the postgame pod, Tobacco Exchange, longtime sponsor. So 3 great locations throughout the metro area. More. What?
Edmond.
I know. You're distracting me with whatever those hand gestures are. Edmond, Oklahoma City, and more. Great selection, great staff. I was in there this yesterday, and were helping me find some things I wanted to find. Great prices. What are we smoking tonight, Lucas?
Tonight we've got an Oliva, I think it's a Series V Milano,
It is.
not to be confused with the former First Lady. But it's a very bold, great smoke. Some people can't handle it. It all depends on your taste.
This cigar is not a lizard person.
But I think they're running a special still. I think it runs through the end of this month.
Yeah.
And it's buy a box of Olivas and you get a leather cigar case and a 8-pack sampler.
Yeah, they still had some of that left on the counter there, so just a few. So stop into the Moore location and pick that up. So let's look forward. Let's talk about Tennessee. We got game day coming to town. First time in how many years?
12 years.
12 years. That's more than a decade.
OU Notre Dame was the last time game day was here in town.
I really can't believe
That
that.
didn't bode well for us.
I just can't believe that either. And we went through spurts where they were here like 3 times in a season.
And there's been plenty of high enough profile games.
Well, the thing is, but they've been away games. So, I mean, you look at the
That's
Big 12
right.
Conference, or it's been OU Texas.
And they have been to OU Texas.
OU, yeah, they've
That's
been to
true.
OU
They have
Texas
been to OU
constantly. And then it's, whenever OSU is good, it's always feels like we're playing them in Stillwater.
I mean, they weren't here for Ohio State.
No?
That's
No.
kind of
Were
wild.
they there at the Baylor game in 21? When we went in, we were...
No, that was 20. They were there in 2019.
The Hurts. They were there for the Hurts.
Then 2019
Right.
we came back.
Yep, the big comeback. So they've been there for the away games. I mean, we were in the Big 12, and they're just the big premier matchup would be Texas. So
One, a lot of our bigger games in the Big 12 the last 5 years or however long that contract was were on Fox. So
right,
it's not as good for ESPN to show up at College Game Day when it's
Big
a
Noon's
Fox
here.
game.
Yeah.
right. So they weren't here for OU Nebraska. They
We haven't
obviously
had
weren't
Big Noon
at
here
Nebraska.
a few times
Yeah. So in Big Noon
because that's become a thing.
at OU Nebraska in Lincoln. I don't remember if they were here. I think they were here.
They were here.
They were here. Yeah,
Yeah, they were here.
Switzer came out and everything.
Yep.
So
Stoops was on the show
yeah.
for 2 seasons? I think.
One, I think.
So I guess that was a little
Yeah.
competitive crowding out. That one reason they haven't been here so long. But it's going to be exciting. It's
It's a big production
big time
now.
atmosphere, big time night game of the week, 6:30. We've got a lot to talk about in terms of our anticipation of it. We'll highlight some of that here and obviously dive in deep on the midweek pod. On the midweek pod, we're going to have a special guest. We're going to have Ryan Sylvia from the Vol Report. That's right. We're going to volunteer. We don't have to pay him, guys.
Volunteering his
He's
time.
volunteering his time. He's going to be. He does something very similar for the Tennessee program. He seems to be. I didn't know when I first heard about it if he was more of a fan podcast or more of a media professional podcasts like that. Well, we're professional, but we're fans, and we're not hiding the fact that we root for and love OU. Seems like they are the same for the Volunteers. So that's going to be real fun to pick his brain. Tune in on the midweek pod. What do we think about this upcoming game? Right now, Tennessee's up about $1 trillion to 7 against Kent State.
It was 65-0 a half.
Yeah,
They were running onside kicks up 30-0.
What did they do?
Onside kick up 30-0.
30-0.
What quarter? What quarter?
In the first quarter.
In the
First quarter.
Why would you
Yeah.
do that?
It's Bush
Why
League.
would
Josh
you do that?
Heupel is
It's
a chump.
absolutely Bush League. I don't care who you are.
It is, isn't it?
It really is. I would have if I was the
It's
Kent State coach,
disrespectful.
I would have requested to meet him at half field, and I would have slapped him in the face.
Well, they're gonna have a chance.
Well,
at
they're-
the
Plenty of
game.
face there to slap.
It's the South. It could be pistols at dawn.
Yeah, I'm
Those
fine.
is a done.
I seriously.
He demands
Because
satisfaction.
one, my team doesn't need me on the sideline because it's 30-0 in the first quarter.
Right,
and you're kicking onside
right.
kicks.
It actually may do better if he's
Yes.
not. On the
And
sideline.
two, just go ahead and slap him, get kicked out of this game, and move on.
It'd be like a baseball manager arguing with an umpire
Yeah.
and get kicked out to fire his team up.
Yeah, I mean, just to show him what you got, it I don't know, that kind of surprised me. And then they're throwing deep still in the third quarter.
They're still doing it.
They're running the score.
It's
up.
68-0.
Now, I don't.
And they're doing everything
Who's
they
in
can
at
to score.
quarterback? I can't see.
This is the third string.
Okay, so they are playing deep into their lineup.
I think they swapped quarterbacks for if I remember right, it was like 2 minutes left and a half.
But they're not just running
Put
the
a
ball.
different quarterback in.
They're still
And it
doing
was
play actions
56
and throwing
or
it down the
something.
field.
So I guess this is good for us because in the comparative score, when they beat us 45-0, we can say, well, we weren't beat as bad as Kent State was. But no, seriously, that's just that's a big score. They're going to be our toughest challenge to date, obviously. If they're not, that must mean that we have a lot going on,
That is an interesting stat.
which is
Not
not
to throw it off that. Georgia is losing in the fourth quarter. And Carson Beck has only played 17 snaps while trailing in the fourth quarter.
wow.
That's incredible.
They just got stopped. Is that a
17
fourth down?
That was probably Bama in the SEC
17 total snaps as a quarterback with your team behind.
That was probably SEC championship against Bama.
That is
Last year,
wild.
yeah.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Sorry, I know it's
No,
a topic.
No, it's
That is a wild statistic.
That is a wild stat. The SEC is wild. There's some surprises. Some teams not looking so good. Other teams looking
Missouri struggled
better.
today.
Missouri struggled. Obviously, Kentucky's doing good today. Did bad last week. You got South Carolina getting a really disappointing outcome for them against LSU today.
Yeah,
Both of those
that's
teams
a backbreaker.
Don't understand what's going on with those teams.
And
are
now
teams that
he's
don't
played 18 snaps
Those are
while
teams
trailing
that,
in the fourth quarter because Georgia just took the lead.
Yeah. Those are
Auburn's,
teams that don't know how to win games.
Auburn's up by 18, fixing to go into the fourth quarter, so they've pulled away a little bit out of New Mexico.
Well, Tennessee is going to present a lot of challenges because it's strength against strength with their offense against our defense. They're going to have at least, no doubt about it, at certain positions, the best players we've seen so far. Most likely, as a unit, they're the best defensive unit we'll have seen. That would be very surprising if we could get to after that game or the end of the year and look back and say, well, it turns out they weren't as good as Tulane.
Now, take this for what it's worth, but there were many local podcasters or radio personality who said Tulane, skill position-wise, has a chance to be the best skill positions we see this season. And I hope they're right.
I don't know if those people know what they're talking about.
Maybe not, but I hope they are right.
Was it Dean Blevins?
No.
I was a little worried about Mario Williams coming in, and he had 3 catches for 50-something yards, I think.
3 yards, I think.
I mean, that's holding him in check because he had been blowing teams up.
Even averaged 25 a catch. or
Yeah,
something.
25 a catch. So
I think next week, biggest concern is back to what we've been beating to death, but Tennessee's D-line against this offensive line is just going to, if we don't figure out some way to scheme and mitigate and basically cash your losses in or out, I guess,
Well,
they're going to eat us alive.
You got to find a gimmick,
yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, you've got to figure something out.
If it's a quarterback draws and some kind of
or rollouts.
rollout. Why are we rolling out?
Roll out. Don't establish the pocket.
I know you eliminate half the field. He's a very strong arm. He can throw back against that, though, if it's safe. You roll out, you have a guy, we call it the old waggle, when you have a guy at tight end, we got a great tight end, or you have Burks coming across the middle, and you just have a run-pass option. And if you do that enough, then schematically that potentially opens up something completely different on the other side that you could do gimmicky. And you disguise that and it runs the different play. Mm-hmm. So there's things you can do, and I think it is sort of we've got to look a little desperately at trying to find different options versus the luxury of thinking we'll just go play our game, because we're not at our game. And
surely the coaches don't think that we can just line up and our guys are going to do their job.
And maybe that's, again, I mean, I know we're giving the benefit of the doubt maybe too much, but maybe that's what we've been doing with holding guys back. Like, we know Tennessee's going to have this force of a defense, at least up front. Like, maybe Hickman could have played today, but we don't need him yet. You know,
Anderson
and Anthony and all these
Anderson
guys.
was jumping around the sidelines goofing around.
Anderson looked like he should have been out there from the snap. Like, fully padded up, had his helmet, jumping around, warming up with Jackson, like, in between drives. I have no idea why he's not in the game. So
Could that be a discipline thing that we don't know about?
I don't know.
I mean, it's just odd. It's really odd.
Could be
that you're in this position, and
I mean, Britt's talked about in the press conference, saying that, you know, he was getting better week to week. He was close, but didn't know if it was going to be this week or next. He was waiting on the trainers and stuff like that. So I don't think it's a discipline issue.
Yeah, I don't either. It doesn't sound like it. It's just strange, and he doesn't appear hurt is what's extra weird. So what is happening that he's not hurt, and or doesn't appear to be, and he's not?
Maybe it's not a leg injury, and he can jump up and down the sidelines. Maybe it's a shoulder or something.
Yeah,
he's not raising his arm up and down.
I don't know. He's pretty animated there.
I hope we see him next week.
I do too.
Well, I think we're going to need everything.
No,
everything. He brings another dimension of the game.
He 100% has to play next week for us to win. We cannot win. I don't think we can.
Bet?
Yeah.
But okay, so I get like 1,000 to 1 odds.
Okay. $100 that if Nick Anderson doesn't play, we do not win.
I pay you $1 if we don't win, and you pay me 100.
Sure. Because I'll be happy that we won, and I don't.
Jay'll be drunk, and he'll be yelling, "Have a good night."
But no, seriously though, because Deion Burks
is important.
Deion Burks is carrying the team in the receiver role.
Right.
I mean, it's not even close. And teams see that, right? They understand that, and they're doing everything they can to keep him from getting the ball, which is promising because he's still getting 7-8 catches a game.
But it's against Tulane.
Yeah, but they're keying in on it.
Yeah.
Right? They're not afraid, literally not afraid of anybody else.
Right.
And, you know, it's just
if Tennessee
it's just math.
It'll be a lot worse.
Yeah.
I'm still confused about the Anthony thing. Like, I mean, plays in Temple, we don't see him go down or hear anything about it, and haven't seen him since. And it's very, very odd. So maybe he just wasn't where they thought he was when he played, and it's like, actually, we need to take this slower than what we originally thought, or I don't know.
It's off the field, and
but we're coming up on a year, which 20 years ago was normal. Now it's not. No. It's 8-9 months, and you're back.
Right.
Like full steam ahead back.
I mean,
no, I think we're holding stuff back. I mean, that's the only explanation I have.
Why would we hold players back?
I don't know.
That's
the thing. The thing with someone like Anthony,
maybe our trainers are just that crazy.
Okay, look, Nick Anderson probably doesn't need much rust to knock off, right? He did most of fall camp, and he's been sitting. I'm sure he's been practicing some. Anthony, on the other hand, missed all of last season, all of spring, most of this fall. He's not going to just step in against Tennessee and be like, oh, here I am.
Right. Presumably he wouldn't. I mean, it's possible, but it's unlikely. And that's a tough one to come into with any kind of rust or hesitation. If he is not confident in his abilities, that's bad too. So I don't know. I'm obviously not completely with you on the it has to, but boy, it's pretty close to those. Anderson needs to be in there for us to have a very good chance in this game. Just like you'd have to say, everyone has to play really well. You can't have big mistakes like the offensive line letting a guy run free. You only get so many chances at that, or it will be pick sixes, and it'll be a Jackson Arnold running backwards and eating dirt. And that's bad, obviously, for any ability to win this game. I don't know. You look at things like we're late in the fourth quarter coming back to the game today, and on second down we run a trick play that would have been a touchdown if it is executed right, and it's not, and so it's dropped for minimal gain. They throw back to the quarterback.
2-yard loss.
It's a 2-yard loss, yeah. And I'm thinking, you have the confidence to call that call. You must see it in practice, and it's fine. Does he get in the game and he just gets a real stiff arm and he can't just do the throwing motion to get it over there? Because he was wide open.
I mean, that was Tatum that threw that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
I mean, if he just throws that harder, Jackson catches it, and the left tackle, I think, rolled out and only had one corner to block.
Yeah.
And so Jackson probably just goes around and scores a 25-yard touchdown.
Right.
If the pass just has a little bit, the pass back to him has a little bit more zip on it. So maybe that's worked.
He come back to the ball. He ran back to the ball. It was awful. So it's like he just short-armed it. You can't have that happen in a game, and you can't have it happen against Tennessee. You need execution. There's just no room for that, especially if you're going to roll out a trick play. Trick plays need to work, and in big games, they definitely need to work. Go all the way back to Nebraska in 2001. Our trick play fails. Nate Hibble fell down. Crouch ran it in the exact same play for a touchdown. So.
I do want to give credit to our staff on the end-of-game clock management on the final drive.
Finally.
They took the delay game at the end of the clock, right?
Yeah.
Took timeout.
And then they use a timeout?
Call a timeout.
Okay, they call a timeout.
No, they took delay.
I thought they took delay.
They ran all the way down. Yeah.
And then, so there was 44 seconds on the clock.
Yep.
When you're going to take your third down snap, and Jackson ran back, 15 yards or something like that.
And then came forward a little.
And then 39, 38 seconds or whatever, and then when he goes down, so then the 40-second play clock starts and the game's over.
Now, my beef on that was don't line up in that formation. Line up in a victory formation that's a shotgun snap. Yeah. And I think that also always somebody deep behind to stop it. And I think that should always, Jay pointed out early in the game when we did that at the end of the second half, or the first half, the second quarter, we line up in the handoff victory formation where if there's a problem, you're lost in the shuffle of where that ball is.
Yeah, rarely do you see
a running back next to Jackson up behind.
Two of them were right there, and then
they had the one behind.
And then the one guy behind and the two on either flanking on either side.
But I mean, how many times have you seen the center quarterback exchange fumbled in that situation versus a super errand snap of a shotgun? And even if it is,
the guy's back there.
You're 10 yards closer than the other team.
Well, the guy's right there.
So
plucks out of the air.
But in vice versa, if you fumble that quarterback exchange, you've got D linemen just diving at the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why every team doesn't do a victory formation shotgun snap.
I don't either.
It doesn't make any sense to me to not do that.
It makes sense, but I think that was the only thing to criticize in the end of game right there. I thought they did a good job of understanding what they needed to get done. It was very safe handoffs, safe runs, executed well. That's an improvement. We'll take any improvements we can get. Any early predictions on what the line will be, or do we know what the line will be?
I think 6.5 in Tennessee.
What was it?
It was 2.5 a couple days ago.
So you think it'll move 4 points from what we saw last night and tonight?
I mean, Tennessee literally looks unstoppable right now.
Against Kent State.
Against everybody they played this season, which hasn't been anybody major, but they're rolling up, I don't know how many yards. If I had to guess, they've probably got close to 2,000 yards in 3 games.
Well,
if not 16 to 1,800.
That seems like a lot of points to move on just what new information we have from OU and Tennessee tonight, though. I mean, I could see it moving off 2.5, but I can't see it moving more than to about 4.
I was going to say 4.5.
So I don't know. We'll see. That's a winnable game on paper.
It's a big home dog.
It's a big home dog for us. Oh gosh, we pull up the stats.
I mean, we still only had 350 yards.
We're that far back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
concerning.
I mean, we scored 34, but we had 350 yards.
Yeah, we were on pace for 500, and second half just disappeared.
Yeah. So we'll make some predictions, obviously, on the midweek pod about where we think we are, what we think the score will be, and everything like that. But it's going to be one where the realist is probably going to take the Sooners to lose, and it'll stretch us homers to see if we can actually pick the Sooners to cover or to win, much less cover. I don't know. It's one of those games where, with the way the team's played, you could come from the future and tell me about any outcome, and I could accept us blowing them out, and I could say, yeah, I see that. That's what's bad. I could see them blowing us out. I could see a close game we lose, close game we win, but it's going to be very surprising if we have a very comfortable win.
Us blowing them out is probably not on the table.
Yeah, you would think.
You would think.
I don't think we're really in a position at this point to blow anybody out, though.
I mean, and that's what's sad. That's what's really bad about the offense, because we haven't seen anything out of the offense that would tell us if this clicks and this clicks and this clicks, we actually can get it done.
Yeah, I don't see us winning by 3 scores in most games from here on out.
At this point, yeah.
At this point.
Except Maine.
Except Maine. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. No, I think.
I'm not saying we can't. I just don't see it right now.
It's hard.
Like,
It's hard to
see
that, for sure.
I think we had a chance today, and same old story of, we can't go put a game away.
We're a defensive-oriented team, so that automatically is going to keep everything a little tighter. Well, I don't know. We'll cover all of that on the midweek. Really dive in deep with the predictions. We'll have Ryan on from Ball Report. That'll be interesting to get his take and see what he has to say about it. Anything else about today's game or anything to look forward to you guys want to touch on?
3-0.
3-0. Let's be happy. 3-0.
3-0.
3-0 that was a lot more of a struggle than we thought it was going to be.
Slight upward trend.
Definitely a slight upward trend.
Feels a little bit like
9-0.
Like our 9-0.
Yep. Like about week in and week out of 9-0. And what game would have been 3-0? Was that the Coastal Carolina, or was that the second game?
That was second when we destroyed it.
And then we had a really tight.
Well, I was also
barely won against West Virginia, or
so it was Tulane, and then we went out and beat Western Michigan.
Or Western Michigan, yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
77.
No, Western Carolina.
Western Carolina.
And we 75-0.
Who would have been our third game, 2021?
Was it West Virginia that was real tight?
No, it would have been another non-con.
Nebraska.
Yeah. And that was very tight.
Was very tight, tighter than it needed to be.
Very tight.
So we feel worse about this team than we did about that team, I would say. We had
only because of the schedule.
Yeah.
The schedules are not comparable.
Yeah, not because I think the team is worse, but because of who we're going to play.
I would say that if you look at things like that interception that we got against Nebraska and all that, we saw these glimpses, and we had reason to have this, what ended up being completely false
fixable hope.
That not just fixable, that it was really good. Not like we're close.
Yeah.
More like we're close.
Like it's actually there. We just got to put it together.
We didn't know it was going to get to fixable. We were thinking we were close. and obviously offense was rolling pretty strongly. Getting better and better. Yeah. And then, and I don't know, that's going to be interesting. So I hope we have a victory against Texas. I don't hope it's the same way. I don't know if Hawkins has to come in, but we'll see.
I do want to say one thing to some of the fans. 3 games in to Baker Mayfield, and most of us were at this game. We were all ready. The whole fan base was ready to put Baker on the bench and put Trevor Knight back in.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody knows the story from there on out. Everything started to click after that. There was also another very, very good freshman quarterback that was playing in the year that we were talking about, who actually got benched that season because of how bad he was playing. And that was Mr. Caleb Williams, who went on to win a Heisman and so forth. So I don't know what has skewed people's idea of what a young quarterback is supposed to look like.
Right.
But people that have just already given up on him, it's absurd.
We haven't seen, that's not the only example.
And that doesn't mean that he can't play better or needs to play better or do anything like that. But some people are just ready to see somebody else.
Very unrealistic.
And he doesn't have a healthy offensive line. He doesn't have a healthy wide receiving core. And they've already, sold the stock on this kid.
So you got the extra year out of Baker. and people don't remember that stuff about Baker struggling. You got Kyler coming in, and people forget about him not looking so great. When he was in Baker's senior year, when he'd come in a few positions, and then when he started that season, it was kind of hit and miss. He was good.
Yeah, it did look like a Heisman.
He did look like a Heisman guy.
Right.
Obviously, you had Spencer Rattler, who stumbled, but we kind of forget about that because Caleb comes in. Caleb it took a discerning fan to realize when you were looking at Caleb, you weren't exactly looking at someone who was real polished and great. You were looking at a guy who had some athleticism. He threw up some jump balls that worked out against Texas. He had some weird plays that cleaned up an ugly game against Kansas.
And he's also one-dimensional against.
Very one-dimensional. He wasn't that great. He wasn't that great, basically,
bench
that season.
He was bench.
Yeah. And then you've got Kyler, who does come in and has a tremendous season, one of the best seasons in the history of football. You have Baker, who has, like I said, the great years that everyone remembers. They forget about what it means to have a young starting quarterback. I mean, remember back to Landry Jones, who obviously was a bit below the standard in terms of championship level that we want, but was one of the great quarterbacks statistically and ended up having a very good career. Had his shortcomings, but he did not look great early on at all.
Looked bad.
Five interceptions in Nebraska, right?
Wasn't that many?
Yeah.
Well, and the loss at Florida State, and that it wasn't pretty. And
no, he won that. We won that game actually. It was the loss at Miami.
Oh, loss at Miami. Yeah. Right. So yeah, we won that the next year. So anyway, that's a great point that people need to be patient and understand it's going to get better, and expect that it should get better, but it isn't. It wasn't going to just walk in.
And I truly think too, if we had our uninjured projected offensive line, and Gibson didn't have an ACL, Farouk didn't break his foot, and Angelo Anthony was on schedule with his return, and Nick Anderson was actually playing, I don't think there'd be any talk whatsoever about Jackson Arnold at all.
Agreed.
And he's had 14 drops in 3 games.
The drops are killer.
And some drops don't even get counted as drops. Yeah. These are just legit, clear-cut drops that they usually count.
Yeah.
14 is a lot.
It's frustrating.
And then you don't know what they're going to do, after that catch that was dropped.
Right. It's not just that catch.
Right.
Yeah.
Your statistics continue to not advance because you're not advancing down the field.
I mean, on average, what do you think? At least 10 yards on an average yak?
No, but even just a whole, you don't know that you're going to, it stops the series from continuing, right? Like tonight, Burks dropped a beautiful third down pass that we talked about. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe Arnold gets 60 more passing yards on the rest of that drive. Like, you just don't know what it looks like. So drops have just been brutal in terms of not just the game, but statistically.
That's a good point. That's a really good point, and a great point on just Jackson's play in total, and gives me hope that it can get better. If we get healthy, it can get a lot better. If we don't get healthy, it's going to be tough.
It's going to be a long season.
It's going to be a long, long season. All right. Well, that's a great wrap-up. Sooners win. That's exciting. We're on to Tennessee. We're 3-0. Boomer?
Sooner.